Reindeer Games is so perfect. This is the 10th and final episode of the Frasier reboot, and I am absolutely devastated that we've reached the end. It's been an incredible journey, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed this. As I've mentioned numerous times, I was nervous about the reboot because it could have gone either way. It was either going to be Frasier Gold, which it is, or it was going to be terrible and they never should have done it. But I'm so glad they did. I read somewhere recently, I didn't clarify the information, but as far as I'm aware, Kelsey Grammer said he wants to reach 100 episodes of the reboot. If that's true, and he did say that, then I hope he gets his wish because that would be amazing. This episode is just so gorgeous, but so emotional, and there will, of course, be spoilers from this point on as I discuss everything in detail, mostly chronologically, as that's, of course, how I made my notes. There wasn't anything about this I didn't love. There was maybe one moment where I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't dislike it, but I didn't necessarily want it to happen. But I'll talk about that in a moment. The episode takes place, of course, just before Christmas, and Frasier has decided to put on an event for all of his friends and Freddy's friends as well. And he's calling it the Crane Christmas Soiree. It's a big, formal, elegant thing. And this comes about because at the beginning of the episode, Frasier has received a box of Martin's Christmas decorations. And he's got the little dancing Santa. And Freddy realizes that it's a difficult time for Frasier. So Freddy suggests this party and says that it doesn't need to be, and I quote, a big formal elegant thing. And of course, that's all Frasier hears. And he organises this party and things for Frasier basically just go from bad to worse. But for me as a viewer, highly, highly, highly entertained. Frasier dressing up in formal attire with a bell and telling everybody at Mahoney's he's having this big event. It was just fabulous. I also love that we had a reason to keep David in the episode. If I remember rightly, his flight had been delayed. He is going home for Christmas, but there's a delay with his flight, so he gets to enjoy the party. And I love how David's wearing a Christmas sweater and everybody else is in formal wear. I love David. I think he's such a brilliant, brilliant character. And the way he kind of introduced the fact that he ordered 24 when the penny dropped, it was amazing. He ordered 24 chairs and one Christmas tree. And in his rush to get everything done, he kind of accidentally ordered 24 trees in one chair. I'm highly, highly amused by this. And just the way the front room was staged, the way it looked was just incredible. In fact, throughout the entire thing, the staging was brilliant. We have this huge table with this giant feast on it, and we never really focus on it. But we can still often see it, and it's just beautiful. And the fact that they changed the lights to look a bit more elegant, it was just beautifully, beautifully done. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a very, very well written episode. I mean, I thought that from the beginning. They're all well written episodes, but when Frasier said the line, I had a lot of fun with this episode. When Frasier said the line, I can't see the florist for the trees, I kind of lost it a bit. And just from that point on, I was just in an incredible mood. And I feel like that's the point when the mood lifted. Up until then, it had been a little bit emotional. Things started to pick up when he went to Mahoney's, and then from I can't see the florist for the trees. From that point on, it was just tremendous fun. But it did occasionally bring back the more raw emotion, which I'll talk about again in a moment. Something I loved about this, which really plays into how well it's written, is the reindeer game that David and Alan are playing. And there's just something great about the relationship between David and Alan. I think they're very different individuals. David is full of life and Alan is weary, but they're both very, very funny. And together they're just brilliant. And they played this game where they had to try and get the nine reindeer mentioned into casual conversation. I had a lot of fun with that as well. Also, that's a brilliant idea for a party game. Not one I'd ever play because I'm kind of socially reclusive, and the idea of intentionally going up to somebody to start a conversation, not my idea of fun. But if other people want to play it, I will happily play along. Really thoroughly enjoyed how that played out. We do actually have a second party going on, not to begin with, but people realise that Frasier's party is not going very well, and they start to go next door to Eve's house, or Eve's apartment. And this is initially because Eve is spending her first Christmas without her husband. She has, of course, lost her husband, as we learn at the very beginning of the season, and she's obviously not feeling great. So a couple of the firefighters go over and they're watching a Hallmark movie, and I have seen many, maybe over 100 Hallmark Christmas films at this point, and I've just checked. To date, I've seen 187 Hallmark Christmas films. So for me, that bit was very relatable. And I don't drink, so I've never played the Hallmark or the Christmas film drinking game. But I can absolutely see how that would be tremendous fun if you're a drinker and you like drinking games. Basically, they took a drink every time there was a Christmas cliche in this Hallmark film that Eve and the others were watching, and Moose in particular. I loved his enthusiasm for this and his commentary. Moose is a really brilliant character. However, I don't know if I love what happened with Olivia. I don't have a problem with it as such, but I feel like it was almost too predictable in a way, but also not at the same time. If you'd said to me 2, 3, 4 episodes ago, Moose and Olivia are going to kiss, I'd be like, well, how's that going to come about? So it wasn't predictable in that sense, but as this episode started to progress, I started to feel like it was maybe a bit too predictable and I just wasn't that bothered about it. It was a nice enough moment. It was both sweet and funny, but at the same time, it's not something that I particularly cared for or felt like I wanted to happen. So I'm not that bothered, but it was fine. I can take it or leave it, I guess. It took me 20 minutes to realize what Freddy's gift was. And I did. I actually checked the time on the player, because when it dawned on me what Freddy's gift was, I felt a bit stupid because I feel like it should have been immediately obvious because I knew that this cameo was happening. Freddy's gift is, of course, Roz. Freddy realized his father was doing a lot of reminiscing, feeling a lot of emotions about his old life and obviously things he's lost over the years, particularly Martin, of course. And Freddy decided to call on Roz, and needless to say, I'm overjoyed. I think Peri Gilpin was one of the first confirmed cameos. I say one of the first. There have only been two cameos, but I think she was one of the first that I found out about. And I think I always assumed that Baby New Earth would be in it. Peri Gilpin was a surprise confirmed cameo, as of course that was never guaranteed. And honestly, it was perfect. When Frasier opened the door and Ross is standing there, it was like no time had passed. And that's incredible. And I got a little bit emotional, and it was really beautiful, and very, very effective. And I rather enjoyed that. I do wish we had more cameos, as I've mentioned. Frasier's in Boston. We have scope for more Cheers cameos. So if the season is commissioned, or if the show is commissioned for a second season, which I think it will be, I think the show has done pretty well, then please, 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 can we have some Cheers cameos? I know things won't be exactly as they were 20 something years ago, but if we can just have a couple, even just Sam, maybe. I don't know if Carla would fit in organically with a Cheers cameo. Frasier and Carla were never that much of a strong pairing, but certainly I think we have other characters. Sam certainly. Diane would be pretty awesome. I don't know. But my Christmas wish, if we can carry this wish into next year, is that the show is recommissioned for a second season and that we get a couple of Cheers cameos. And having now been to Boston, been to Cheers, I can confirm that the bar set is actually in Cheers. If you visit Cheers in Beacon Hill, it's actually upstairs when you go up to the gift shop. It's just amazing and mind blowing and incredible. So I don't think we'd ever get to go back to Cheers because so much time has passed, nothing would be the same, and the bar set is in Cheers, if that makes sense. Although they could, of course, recreate it or buy the set back or borrow it. I don't know. Either way, I don't wish for us to go back to Cheers, the location, but some Cheers cameos would be incredible. Circling back to this episode, loved the ending with the elementary school musicians playing the theme. Tremendous fun, beautiful episode, festive, funny, very funny. I would say this is the funniest episode and yet also one of the most emotional. And they just struck the balance beautifully from start to finish. I adored every second of this. Pretty much from start to finish, I've adored every second of the entire series. And I cross my fingers very, very tightly that we get a second season because this has been incredible.